Well, welcome to our Secure Act 2.0, how the Secure Act changes retirement webinar that we're doing. We are going to be talking about all the new things to consider with the Secure Act 2.0 that was released December 31st of last year, 2022. Okay, so I'm going to change the slides. There we go. Those are handsome faces that you guys should recognize. I'm Ryan.
And I'm Doug.
Doug Hanson. You could call him Hanson.
Hanson.
There it is.
Yeah, it's a good name.
You like that. And then this is important, very important information, which you guys have seen before. So if you have questions, feel free to email our service line, service@christianwm.com, or call our service phone number. If you have our phone numbers directly, you can do that as well. These are ways for you to ask questions about the stuff that you're learning or other things that might be on your mind. All right, so the topic, Secure Act 2.0, changes, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And just a quick prayer, Lord, we just lift this time up to you. We ask for your eyes and your ears as we're trying to explore how to handle our finances in a way that honors and glorifies you. Amen. All right. So before we dive into the updates for the 2.0 for the Secure Act, I think it's important to understand the OG or the original Secure Act. You know, if you're below the age of 40, maybe you're familiar with what the term OG means, and it's just slang for original. So just a kind of witty way to bring up the topic. So we'll just talk about 5 quick impacts the Secure Act made. Or changes. The Secure Act has a very creative acronym. Do you remember what the acronym is?
I do not. I didn't know that was going to be on the test.
That's
Something retirement.
Setting every community up for retirement enhancement.
That's it.
So very creative marketing. I only know it because I've been studying this for the last 3 weeks. So that's why I remember. Okay, so in 2019, that was the first introduction of the Secure Act, or setting every community up for retirement enhancements. So these are the 5 kind of main changes that we've seen. There's a lot more going on than what we'll just talk about now, but these are probably going to be the stuff that we'll talk through today is what I think is going to affect our clients the most and what will be the most interesting to people. But no, a lot more is going on than the stuff that we're going to cover today. So what you'll notice since 2019 is there's been more access to annuities and 401ks. So not super important in this moment, but something that you might have noticed since 2019. Another thing that the Secure Act did was it allowed for a $5,000 early retirement withdrawal for your child, either a newborn child or an adoption in the calendar year that you had your new child. So something interesting to think about within that. RMDs have been delayed. So RMDs have been delayed, and then also new contributions have been allowed to traditional IRAs once you're past the RMD age. So Doug, can you talk maybe a little bit about what an RMD is? And
I do know that.
Okay.
Required minimum distribution. Yeah. Historically, once you reach 72, you were required to take out a certain percentage of your IRA or 401k. The government told you that. It's now raised to 73. And so that's something that we work with people in that age group to make sure that they do take out their RMDs. In fact, we encourage folks that if they don't need that required minimum distribution for living expenses, that you can do a qualified charitable distribution to a nonprofit of your choice. And we've had a number of clients that have done that. So that's exciting. There's tax benefits for that too. So it's kind of something to keep in mind as you move into that age group and have an IRA or 401k.
Yeah, so along with what Doug was saying, so the original Secure Act delayed RMDs from age 70 and a half to age 72. And historically, and that's all related to traditional IRA or traditional 401ks, or also Roth 401ks. And we'll talk about that later, but just the RMD age has been delayed from the original Secure Act from 70 and a half to 72. And then traditionally, you weren't allowed to make new contributions to your traditional IRA once you reach that age, but that was eliminated with the original Secure Act, which I had a lot of clients that started making new contributions upon that elimination to their traditional IRA. So I saw that be a positive thing of the Secure Act. Okay, this is an interesting one, that we're now allowed to take $10,000 out of a 529 plan to withdraw without penalties to pay for student loans. It seems really nice, but also begs the question, why do you have a student loan if you have 529 plans? So I haven't really seen many people exercise this since 2019, but you know, it gives us more options, and as Nathan, an advisor in office, says, more options are better. It's nice to have more options. Okay, and this is probably the main impact. This is why I called it the good, the bad, and the ugly of the Secure Act, is because removing this 0.5, eliminating the stretch IRA, removing the stretch IRA is probably the most significant impact of the Secure Act. So what the stretch IRA is, if people don't know, if you have a traditional IRA, traditional 401k, and you pass away, and then now you have, you know, your kids inherit your money that you had in your IRA. Let's just, yeah, I guess I don't need to associate a dollar amount with it. For some reason, I felt like I had to. Okay, I'm going to anyways. $1 million. Let's say there's a million.
Nice IRA.
Let's say there's $1 million in there, and in your 401k, you pass away. Now you have two kids. Their name is Jim and Jeff, and then they inherit this. So before 2020, before the Secure Act, Jim and Jeff got options that they can distribute the IRA, their inheritance, over their lifetime. So if they were 50 or 40 years old, they could be making distributions on this for decades. So this was a huge tool people were using. And I've only been in the business since 2013. So I have a lot of stretch IRA accounts, but I from the research I've done, I've seen other people be a lot more frustrated with the removal of this. So the point is, now with the Secure Act eliminating the stretch IRA, where people historically used to be able to take distributions over a lifetime, which would be able to give people more time to not pay taxes as much. So, right, if we take distributions over time, it delays how much you're paying the IRS. The IRS is saying, hey, we have all this money, $1 million in a non-taxed account. We want to get taxes for it. So now when somebody passes away, you have to get the money out within 10 years. You have a 10-year window, a definite time of, okay, when date of death, within 10 years, Jim and Jeff have to take your $1 million out. In other words, the IRS knows, hey, we're going to get to be able to collect taxes on this money with a certain date in mind. So if you have any questions about that, I'm sure it wasn't said excellently, but if you have questions, feel free to let us know. But I think that is a really important part of the Secure Act that maybe not a lot of people talk about. Okay, so that was 2019. Now we're going to what we saw going into this year, 2023, and what we saw passed in the Secure Act 2.0. Okay, so we're just boiling it down to 7 amendments. Know that this document's 19 pages long. There's 11,000 words in this document, and we try to boil it down to 7 points. So,
and Ryan's read every word.
Every word, yeah. And Nathan, he said that's a poem for the IRS to only come out with a 19-page document. And I think that's probably true. I was expecting it to be longer, but okay. So we talked about this in the original Secure Act. This is again in this new updated Secure Act that RMDs are delayed again. So now if you're 72, or now before it was age 72, you had to make required minimum distributions. Now it's between 73 and 75. And then those who are born after 1969, that's when it's age 75, but it's a scale. And so depending on your age, you want to be cautious of when to make the required minimum distributions. So the other kind of interesting thing is I didn't know this before, but if you had a Roth 401k, Roth is you've already paid taxes on it, but still safe for retirement, or yeah, safe for retirement. If you had a Roth 401k or Roth 403b, that you had to do RMDs.
Yeah, and because they didn't put in Roths until later in the retirement. They had the traditional 401ks before that, and so yeah, having Roths, more and more people are now doing it, but I don't think a lot of them are now in the retirement age yet because they haven't been around a long time. So yeah,
that's a good point.
That's a new thing. Whereas traditional Roths outside of it, you don't have to worry about that. But a Roth within 401k or 403b, you have to worry about that.
So with the new Secure Act, they've eliminated the RMDs for Roth 401ks and 403bs. So as I was learning about this, I never realized, oh wow, within 401ks and 403bs that there were RMDs for those. So those are both good things. We're delaying when we have to make withdrawals, which is good. And to Doug's point earlier, if you want to give to charities, that's always good if you want to give. So that's great. And then also to be able to eliminate RMDs from Roth 401ks and 403bs is excellent as well. And then the last point is reduce penalties. If you missed your RMD for the year, historically the IRS has said you're going to owe a 50% penalty on that RMD amount. So like, let's say you have $1 million in your account and you have to take out $5,000 from that for that year. I probably would be closer to 50,000, right? Not 5,000. I'm sorry, 50,000. If you missed it for that year, the penalty was supposed to be $25,000 or 50% of the RMD. The IRS rarely enforced it from the stories I've heard and from personal experience, but that was a big hefty penalty, 50%. So going forward, it's listed at 25% now, and there's talks of then if you correct it in a timely manner, reducing the penalty to 10%. So we liked that the IRS never really enforced the 50% penalty, but it's also nice to have like an official, hey, we're going to lower the penalty if it does happen. And if they do start enforcing it, at least the penalty is lower. So we're encouraged by that. Catch-up contributions changes. Okay, so we talked about RMDs, catch-up contribution changes. So there's a couple things. One is it's going to be more adjusted for inflation. So like catch-up contributions would be once you're over the age of 50, the IRS allows you to add more money to save for retirement because they recognize, hey, maybe you start saving late and you want to start saving more or catch up. Well said. Okay. So at the age of 50, for your 401k, I think you could put $7,500 extra in there a year. And then for IRAs, you could put $1,000 extra a year. So right now, from what my understanding is, starting 2025, if you're age 60 to 63, you can add an extra $2,500 or $10,000 a year instead of the traditional $7,500. So giving older people extra money that they can throw into it. And then there's talks of doing an inflation adjusted amount for IRAs in the future. So right now it's only $1,000 a year for catch-up contributions, but maybe they adjust it to $1,100 next year to account for inflation. So that's going to be on the horizon, likely be on the horizon. And the other thing that's interesting is once you're over, well, if you participate in catch-up contributions regardless, and you make over 147,000, I believe, you are going to have to make Roth contributions. That starts 2024. So traditionally, you can make your catch-up contributions traditional or Roth, but the IRS is saying, hey, if you make over a certain amount, we're going to force you to do Roth contributions. So
that $10,000 option you have for people 60 to 63, you called them older people.
Older.
I'm 63, by the way. I just had to give Ryan a hard time.
Yeah, it's okay. Let's get to you. All right, so point 3. So you can point 3, what is it? You can withdraw, $1,000 from your retirement plan for emergencies. So this is kind of vague. I don't understand what the parameters are of like what qualifies for an emergency. But right now, it seems like there's some flexibility with the employer. It's based off of the employer from my understanding, because it is an employer sponsored plan that you can take the $1,000 out. But you can access $1,000 early without penalties. I believe you're still going to pay taxes and it has to qualify for emergencies, and somehow that's got to be defined. So, like I said, there's a lot of stuff that they're going to have to figure out within, even the 19 pages was not specific enough. They're going to have to figure out some specifics to clarify some of these things, but these are the highlights of it. Okay, this is a good one too. Allowing Roth, SEP IRA, and simple IRA plans. Historically, they've all been traditional SEP IRA and traditional simple plans, and there's ways you could do conversions to get the money from traditional to Roth, but this is just a lot more simpler to stick with the term simple IRA, to just have an option. You can open a Roth simple IRA plan or a Roth SEP IRA plan. That will make things smooth in the future. I've had plenty of clients that they want to throw more than, they're self-employed, they want to throw more than the 6,500 that they're allowed to throw in their IRA. And now this is going to be a great option for them.
Yeah.
Okay, emergency savings account option alongside retirement savings plan. So this is also kind of interesting, and I don't understand all the specifics, but it seems like an employer, so this would go alongside your employer retirement plan, so like your 401k or 403b, and you could save up to $2,500 a year, from my understanding, for quote unquote emergencies. What I'm not sure about is, does your employer match anything that you put into this plan? Does your employer just put the money in it like they will historically for like HSAs, things like that? Will they just throw money in your retirement, in your emergency savings plan, or do they deduct it from your paycheck if you do it? So if your employer pays for it if your employer is filling an emergency fund for you, that's awesome. I think that's a great idea. But if they're just taking out of your paycheck to throw it in another account somewhere, and I think there's better options of just saving for emergencies in a place that you already probably are saving for emergencies and whatnot. So I could see some benefits to that, but it also seems pretty confusing. So 529 plan. This is, I think, what I'm the most excited about, the 529 plan to Roth rollover. So question I've had since I've been in this business is, Ryan, what if I save for my kids in a 529 plan? Okay, a 529 plan, for people that don't know, is a college savings account. So you get tax-free growth while you save, assuming that your kids use that, or the beneficiary uses that for college expenses. So Ryan, what if I save for my kids in a 529 plan? And what if they start a business in high school and it's successful? Or what if they just decide to be a missionary or do something that's not traditional, that's not recognized by the 529 plan as a qualified education expense? And before, we would say, okay, well, you can change the beneficiary. There's a lot of things that you can do. You don't have to just let that money sit in the 529 plan. There's a lot of options, but what we haven't had available is to now we can roll over up to $35,000. It's subject to the Roth contribution limits for the year. And then what's the other thing I'm thinking about? But those are the main two parts, up to 35,000.
15 years.
Oh, yes. And the account has to be open for 15 years. So there are certain restrictions or parameters in place. But now we have this option. Hey, if you have a kid that's 5 years old right now and you're starting to save a lot of money, like a lot of my clients are, for their college, what if they don't go? What if they don't use all the money? Now they have a really good option. We can start rolling over a portion to the beneficiary's retirement Roth IRA account over years. Depends on how much money you have saved, but $35,000 subject to the contribution limits for each year. And then you have to have the account open for 15 years. Any thoughts to add to that?
Yeah, it's I think it's a good option. Good thing to keep in mind. Grandparents can open 529s for grandkids, or parents or aunts and uncles for nieces or nephews. And so there might be a lot of opportunities to be able to contribute to a family member through a 529 and bless them for the long term if it's rolled into a Roth. So,
I like
it's a good
it.
thing.
Okay, and the last part, employer-sponsored plan credits and automatic enrollment, and
Yeah.
anything else with employer-sponsored
Yeah.
plans.
Yeah, it's really interesting how the government is really starting to encouraging more and more of people to save for their retirement. You know, last century pensions were more likely retirement plan, but there's fewer and fewer pensions, and so people are really responsible for saving for their own retirement. And so the government IRS is trying to encourage even small employers to open up 401ks. Traditionally, we think of 401ks for larger employees because there are some administrative costs and things like that. But what this is, if you have fewer than 50 employees and you open up a 401k plan for them, that you can get 100% tax credit on the cost of opening up that plan. Plus, you can get 100% credit of contributions to each of your employees up to $1,000 employee. Now, the tax credit for the cost plan, you go up to $5,000 on that. So anyway, that's for year one, you get that tax credit. So basically, it pays for itself year one, most likely. Year two, it's the same 100%. Year three, it drops to 75%. Year four, 50%. And year five, 25%. So really some strong incentive for small business owners to open up 401ks for their employees. And we at Christian Wealth Management, we've been opening up some of these for employers, 401ks with small business owners, and really encouraging employees to contribute to it. There may be a matching to it. And but this tax credit they get is a big incentive for these small businesses to open up. So so it's something, if you happen to be a small business owner, or a small business owner, or more likely if you work for a small business owner and there's not a 401k, just bring this up to them and say, hey, to start a 401k here, you get tax credit, basically pays for itself the first 2 years and most partially for the next 3 years. So get that up and running. We'd love to work with them on that. And then in 2025, there's going to be plans that have started. There's going to be automatic enrollment, again, part of the government's effort to really get people to save for retirement on their own. So plans starting in 2025 will have this automatic enrollment. You'll be automatically enrolled. You have to specifically not enroll to be out of it. So get them in the plan, and that's good. I know in setting up 401ks and 403bs, we set up for nonprofits that not everyone enrolls, and I don't understand that, especially if there's matching. It's a kind of a win-win for them. So
yeah, I could see that being really beneficial, especially if they offer a match and if someone's not very proactive with saving. What if a plan's already established?
Yeah, it doesn't. These are new plans.
Okay, so plan established after 2025. Those are the ones that are going to have people automatically enroll when they get hired.
But plans established in 2023 or later can do the tax credit.
Okay.
Yeah, so 2025 for the automatic enrollment. The other, it's kind of interesting. The other way the government is trying to encourage people to participate in 401ks is that employers can now give out little incentive gifts to sign up.
Oh, that's right.
They can give out trinkets or something like that. There's some, it's fairly limited, but I thought that was pretty creative.
Yeah.
Saying, hey, sign up and we'll give you a free pen or whatever. I don't know.
It would be interesting to see how companies, if they use it, what gifts they give, how do they motivate people to participate?
Yeah.
iPhones.
Yeah, trinkets. They said trinkets. The other thing, it's kind of on the other end, it's interesting. There's been if you leave a company, you have less than $5,000 in your 401k, then there's a force-out contribution required to move it. They're going to raise that to $7,000. So I don't know quite how that plays into what the government's trying to do, but that's you're required then to move it. So if you're in that case, let us know. We've got move it into IRA for you?
If somebody has less than $7,000 and they don't work with the employer anymore, they can be forced to move it out.
Well, yeah, I don't know. It seems to be that they're, yeah. Yeah, maybe can be is a good way to do it, yeah. But they're raising that to
Yeah.
7,000, so.
Which I've had plenty of clients say, hey, like I got a letter from an old employer
Yeah,
plan I
yeah.
didn't even know I had. And they want me to move the
Yeah,
money out by this date, so that's the people will or there will be plenty of people that experience that increase from, I don't know what the limit was before.
It's
You know,
5,000,
was
now it's
5,000, okay.
7,000, yeah.
Okay,
So, yeah, so anyway, keep
Yeah.
that in mind. If you get that letter, we move that into an IRA, no tax consequences for you. Assume it's a traditional 401k for you. So, yeah,
sweet,
lots of good changes. I will say, I'm back on point 4 there. Ryan talked about the Roth and the SEP and simple. It is interesting how the government's moving more towards
Yeah.
encouraging Roths because they get their tax money now.
Yep.
It's not a delayed tax.
Yep.
And so they always like that.
Yeah,
It's interesting to see how that plays out
Yeah.
in the Secure Act 1.0,
Yeah.
2.0.
yeah, when I was doing a lot of this studying or trying to come up with the information, and one of the professionals I came across, his name was Ed Slott, and he said pretty much what I can guarantee you is whatever. So he said a couple of things, but one thing is pretty much what I can guarantee is whatever Congress names a law, you can pretty much bet it's going to do the exact opposite of that. So, retirement enhancement, the original Secure Act removed the stretch IRA. And so that was his argument there. But then he also said, the IRS is probably one of the worst financial planners in thinking about, okay, if we get everybody to Roth now, we get income now.
Yeah.
But what about future and what does that look like? And so, but he was really, Ed Slaw, I think he was a really interesting character to listen to, but he was really excited about he'd been in the business for a long time. I should say that, an older gentleman. Doug is extremely young in comparison to Ed Slot. But anyways, he had a really good perspective, and he was saying that he was really encouraged by how many more opportunities there are for people to get money into Roth. And he was just really, encouraged, excited about the future on, okay, more options to get people in Roth. And he felt really good about what Roth benefits are to families in the future. And so, it does seem like that's kind of the undertone of maybe the Secure Act 2.0 of just like, okay, more money towards Roth gets the IRS more income now, but also kind of helps a lot of our clients' futures, our own futures, be more secure in the sense we don't have to worry about how much we're gonna have to pay for taxes.
Well, and allows you to plan better because whatever's in your Roth, you can project some growth, and that's what you're gonna get. Whatever is in your traditional 401k, you project some growth and subtract off whatever you think the tax is going to be, and so it's a lot of benefits for it. So we always encourage Roth's contributions for those reasons.
Well, that's the Secure Act 2.0. We're gonna close here with the verse. When I was homeschooled, I was probably 10 or 11 years old. I remember going around the living room with my mom. Me and her were working on memorizing Proverbs 3.
Okay.
And so, I've been reading Proverbs a lot lately and just thinking about, especially the conversations with people of, we're trying to save money for our kids. We don't know what they're going to do for education. Should we save in college savings plans? Should we not? And just thinking about what the Proverbs has to say about wisdom, valuing wisdom and understanding, the example Doug said about always trying to learn and grow. And so with that said, I just wanted to close with a verse that has been or with some verses that has stuck out with me. And just remember, we're all at the end of the day, like, we don't control very much, right? God's in control, and we want to plan well. We want to be wise with what God has given to us, but at the end of the day, it's all his. So, all right, Proverbs 3, 13 through 18 says, "Blessed are those who find wisdom, those who gain understanding, for she is more profitable than silver and yields better returns than gold. She is more precious than rubies. Nothing you desire can compare with her. Long life is in her right hand, and in her left hand are riches and honor. Her ways are pleasant ways, and all her paths are peace. She is a tree of life to those who take hold of her. Those who hold her fast will be blessed.
Amen.
So, Mom, I remember the verse. I can't say it from memory, but it definitely comes up often. So, yeah, thanks for joining us. And if you have questions, that's our contact information, or if you have our numbers specifically, you can reach us there. And we hope you have an awesome day, whatever day you're listening to this, and then maybe
Summer.
yeah. All right.
Yeah.
God bless all of you, and we will see you next time.